Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome back to Reality Realness with three S's. I'm your host, Chantele Francis, here with Jonathan to do a recap of episode 10 and the finale of the Amazing Race season 35. Jonathan, how are you doing today, being the grand old winner of the draft?
Oh my goodness. I know I was lucky enough to have all three of my teams at the end, which I was not expecting, to be honest with you. And one of them took it home. I think these episodes were good. They were interesting to watch these last two episodes. And I think there was, little unexpected things that happened here or there. So I liked it. Good season.
Definitely a good season. I was watching the winners, like their Instagram stream of like the actual finale, and like that was really fun as well. So we're gonna have to go a little bit back into the past before the winners were announced, and they are booking flights to Dublin on Expedia. Didn't you feel like you were in the Amazing Race Canada with like the very, very obvious product placement?
Yeah. I will have to say they aren't, because I think it doesn't happen as often or as thick as it does in the Canadian version. We can get over it quick, but yeah, it does like bring you back there. It's a little bit of trauma you revisit when you see that.
No, I'm just like, no. I'm also going to see if I can try to pull up at the same time our cast predictions, because we did pull some cards for the season and I don't remember what we pulled for the final three. So hopefully I'll be able to maneuver and we can listen to what we had to say about them.
Yeah, I don't remember either. That's fun.
Which would be very, very fun. We have some friends here. Thomas, DM Rocks is here. I definitely saw the trailers of Traders Season 2 and it looks good. Very good. Hi, lovable Nikki. Thanks everyone for being here. So Annalie is the last woman standing in this final four. And I was like, oh boy, that would be really unfortunate if it was like the final three teams are all male teams. Like I do like everybody that would have ended up, but like I would like some female representation in the finale.
Yeah, and maybe not her. But But yeah, I agree. I was saying that yesterday to myself while watching the finale. So it's I would have loved definitely much more of that. So
Glenda's also here. Hello, hello.
hello.
All right, so we got some time. So 7:38 leaving is Joel and Garrett with their first place win. So they're going to be departing, and they're just hoping that they don't get eliminated because they want to run the finale or the final leg. 7:41, John and Greg leave. 7:42, Corey and Rob, and 7:43, Annalie and Steve. So we did see that they were pretty stacked up on top of each other. And so, yeah, they were just like less than a minute apart, each of them. So they get the route info and they're going to the 40-foot, and it's going to be a deep plunge where they're going to have to jump into the water, swim out to a buoy, grab a clue, and swim back. But the catch here is that they're going to be doing some self-driving on the other side of the car, and I'm assuming the road as well. How would you do with stick shift with your left hand?
Well, I can't drive stick shift, so
Am I going to have to teach you how to drive stick, Jonathan?
It's funny because both of my parents apparently do, but I not that I was raised by them, but I never learned. I mean, I'm very, listen, if I could have someone put in my gas for me, I would.
I mean, that's full service. Yeah.
Yeah. I know, but where is full service nowadays? It doesn't exist. But yeah, I don't. I'm like, why can't all cars on this earth be automatic?
I actually disagree because, like, I love driving standard, but it was
Why?
because, well, the first car that I ever learned how to drive on was standard, right? So it's also nostalgic for me. It's been like,
Okay.
25 years, more than that, of driving standard. And so if I wanted to have a car, my mom's car was always standard. So I needed to learn. And so I did my test on it.
Mhm.
And I've always just driven standard. So whenever I have an automatic car that I'm like, say, using for, I rent a car or something like that, I'm like, I don't even know what to do with my left foot. I'm like, I was like, it's like I don't know what to do here. And so I just
But like,
enjoy it. I feel
As a
like,
I think millennials are mixed, and I'm a millennial, but it's like I
are you saying I'm
just
not?
no, I'm just
I'm on
saying
the cusp. I'm
I
on the
feel like
cusp.
they're mixed. So with us being millennials or millennial cusps or whatever, I just feel like there's people who are pro and there's people who like me who are like, I don't understand the purpose. And like genuinely, like
It's honestly,
tell
it
me the
feels
purpose.
really good in my opinion. Cause
It's a
like,
feel. I mean, driving to me is just a means of getting from point A to point B. I don't enjoy it or not enjoy it. I don't enjoy traffic, but like I don't understand the purpose of it. And maybe there is some purpose that I'm just unaware of, especially in other countries that
well,
have like
I
main
do find that I have more control over the vehicles. So like, if the brakes aren't working, I can still slow down the car. You know what I mean? And so like you can have control of speed to a certain extent. And you just like, I don't know, it feels good to be like, I don't know, it feels good. I know you don't know what I mean, but it feels like
No,
you're
I
playing a video
don't.
game.
Right. I mean, listen, I grew up with um a go-kart. So we owned a go-kart. So, you know, I get maybe having more of this like grounded kind of just like you feel like you're more in control of something and the power behind that, but driving's just like I said, just point A to point B for me. So
Well, maybe you have to start driving standards so then you'd enjoy it a little bit
having
more.
said that, the world that I live in, yes, I do agree with you. I think it's a great asset for someone to, especially going on the Amazing Race, to know. I wouldn't go on the Amazing Race with someone who learned it 3 weeks ago. I would go on with like you, who like knows how to do it. You know what I mean? So
I mean, I'm not too bad with things with my left hand. Like every once in a while, I'm like, oh, I should just practice writing with my left hand a little bit. You know what I mean? But I think it still would feel a little bit awkward. Like it
mhm,
would take a long time to practice enough for it to feel comfortable.
right.
Like shifting with the left hand. I don't know. My cousins from England, whenever he used to come to Canada, like they had no problem switching over and shifting with their right hand.
Mm.
But it could be because they're right-handed. So,
Right, right,
and
right,
so they
right.
have to automatically learn on their left.
Yeah, they learn the more difficult way, and then yeah.
So Robin said all 6 roadblocks. So Corey must do the last 2. And so they actually orchestrated this way because they were assuming that maybe if they were more physical at the end, then Corey can just bang them out. And then Steve also has to do the rope up. So they didn't actually think about this. What would your strategy be for, leaving roadblocks to the end, or would you go and keep them even all the way through?
Yeah, I mean, I would assume that you would plan for that. There is the whole like, if you're in a situation and you just need to like, listen, if we're out this round, we won't get to the end, then there might be an imbalance when it comes to like if you happen to make it through. So I get why some teams don't. I don't get why some teams don't, and they're like, oh, we never thought about this. I would go into it planning to split them up when you can, and then in Rob and Corey's situation too, obviously, one over the other is more athletic and younger, and so it's yeah, I would be like, oh, you can do this, Dad. Okay, great, go ahead. You know what I mean? So,
It
um,
didn't feel like Annalie did more than Steve did, but it's wild. Like I think that it might have been beneficial if they hadn't done that, and that she was able to do a couple of these. Well, definitely the ones this episode. They would have benefited heavily if she was able to do them.
yeah, and I think early on they were in, maybe not the last couple legs prior to this, but early on they were definitely in positions where
Take
they
the
could have
risk.
afforded, yeah, to take
Mhm.
the risk. Exactly. So that's again on the fact that I don't think that she watches the show. The show. So
Right,
you
right, right,
know,
right, 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 right. Sophie wants to know if we're going to cover Traders too. I'm like, I would hope so.
God,
I
traders.
I
Ugh,
love mystery
so
shows with
good.
Jonathan.
So
So
good.
I'd say likely yes, likely yes. So Steve and Annalie in the car are fighting again. I mean, I think that with if I was doing it with a family member, like I would be bickering for sure. But just like watching them, I'm just like, they're not really getting along on this race. It's really funny. But they did say after, which I felt kind of bad, is that they really had an amazing time on the race together as their kind of last hurrah, whatever, before she goes and lives with her husband.
Mm.
Um, And she said that like the fans being so mad about their relationship has kind of been tainting their experience. That kind of
Hmm.
sucks, no?
I mean, you're going on a reality show, bearing your true self to the world. What comes of it is what comes of it. I mean, it's an edited show as well. So even if that's not your truth or how you feel like you're represented accurately, that's what you signed up for. I mean, I mean, I don't know anything about her family, but if her mom's still, alive and capable, I mean, I feel like if she ran it with her mom probably was the one who, you know, wouldn't put up with her crap. So it's like, so I feel like it would have been a totally different race. And I'm like, I did think about that sometimes. I'm like, I'm like, does your dad just let you get away with like? It just brought me.
Daddy's little girl,
Yeah, you know what I mean? I just felt like I could picture her as a child being like, "Dad," like, you know what I mean? When mom wouldn't let her do something, and it just felt like the grown-up version of that, which I don't know, lent itself super well to the race, but, it is what it is. You signed up for it, so,
And I guess
it's
if you
not.
haven't watched the race to realize that like people are going to potentially get hate if they are not just like with how they're treating each other or acting, like people are going to have judgments.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Now, are you one of those people that go and do a polar bear plunge on January 1st?
I wouldn't unless there was a race. So, I mean, I would happily. I'm a good swimmer. I can definitely. I mean, I know what it's like to be in cold water and how that takes the air completely out of you. Um, but when they were doing it in this race, it wasn't like that deep. We had some underwater shots, and you're like, oh, the ground's right there. So, um, yeah. But I mean, quite shocking. Thing with that is you just need to do it quick. Just go do it. Don't even think about it. It's like
Yeah.
jumping off a cliff into water. Just do it. Don't even think about it. Just go. So
Yeah, that's definitely what I've learned about like cliff jumping type things. It's just have to go.
yeah,
Like
do it.
it's like if you start thinking about like how much it sucks, like you won't do it. Just
Yeah.
gotta
I've done it, and it's like I was the first one up on that cliff and jumping in the water
you're
because
just get it
like,
over with.
if I think about it, I won't do it. So yeah.
So Rob and Corey are able to get to the deep plunge, go swim out to the buoy, and do all that in for like they're first to get it done. They're really fast, getting to the buoy, like getting to the route marker, and then getting to the buoy and out. Like they did a good job. I was pretty impressed by them. How are you
Oh,
feeling about your favorite team at this point? They're in
they
starting
were,
this leg
yeah,
lead.
they're on point so far for this leg, and that's the thing. It's like at this point with these teams, all it takes is one little mistake or one little slip to, go from first to last. So yeah, they needed to do this, and I was very happy to see that they pulled it together.
Me too. They're just so sweet, so sweet. Steve and Annalie, though, expectedly were the last to complete the plunge. So the other two teams, they were able to go. Pretty. Nobody seemed to have a big problem with the plunge, except for maybe Steve and his swimming. So I noticed that some people were only one team was wearing a life vest, and the other teams weren't. So would you have worn a life vest or no?
Ooh, no, and I wouldn't have wasted the time, because I'm a good swimmer. But also, was Steve wearing like shoes and
Oh
like
yeah,
thick
he's wearing.
clothing,
Yeah, I
and
think he's wearing water shoes.
they look like runners though. But I mean, it's just that just weighs you down. So I would have tried to like just get out of as much clothing as possible without it taking up any time, and going for it. So yeah, I've been in lakes and whatnot with shoes, even water shoes, but with shoes, and I would not recommend that unless you have to.
Yeah, I feel like I like having my toes free, like in water
Well,
situations.
it's
Like I
like your
just
little like flippers, like this, like that's how you swim, right? So it's like you just push those legs, and it's just aerodynamic or whatever. I don't know the scientific stuff behind it, but I mean, like shoes weigh you down. So I was like, ooh, Steve, I don't know if that's a good idea.
well, even on the challenge, they always are wearing life vests, and I'm like, how is Wes swimming that quickly with a life vest on? Because like
Yeah.
it's helpful if maybe if you use it as like a flutter board, And like not wearing the vest and just like kind of like, using your legs, maybe it'd be helpful that way. But like we're actually swimming with a life vest on, I find is quite labor intensive.
Yeah, again with the cliff diving, I did it then too because you had to. I mean, and with the challenge, like they're dropping like Cirque du Soleil, like 100 feet from the air, kind of a thing. So you have to wear a life vest. I get it, but
I'd be actually scared of like it going up and like hitting, like cutting my neck or
right.
I don't know.
Yeah, anyways. But it's not ideal.
So after the cold plunge, they're going to be going to Gaiety Theater for their next clue. And I was just like, poor Steve in the water. He's just like leisurely back stroking to the shore. And poor Annalie is also just, Dad, come on, let's go. Like, come on, Dad. So after they do end up finishing this part of the task, Annalie does see, and Steve do see John and Greg stopping to get directions. And so they decide to follow John and Greg. What did you think about them deciding to follow them?
We've seen it work before for other teams this season. I'm not the biggest fan when it's complicated. But, we've also seen teams pass teams when others have stopped for directions and it taking, just a few minutes to get them. So in this case, with as few teams and with them being kind of at the end, I feel like it was probably the right thing to do. Again, I have mixed feelings about it. And generally speaking, like, I wouldn't do it at the first half of the race. I would just get your own directions. So definitively like.
Well, and also like you could see like what kind of notation works for you to remember where you're going. Like, I don't know. Like, I think practicing getting your own directions and then realizing, oh, that wasn't good. I need to be better at it this way. Cause following someone, unless you already have your own directions, isn't the best choice usually. Yeah. Like I'd be so pissed if I followed someone and then they got me lost or whatever.
Oh, and I can't think of a specific instance, but we've definitely seen that before where a team in the history of Amazing Race has followed another team in the wrong direction. So it's not always great, but I mean, yeah, I think in this case, you're following a team that usually gets it right. And there's not many teams left. So you probably don't have time to, stop and check for yourself, kind of a thing. So, but
So Rob and Corey get to the first roadblock. Who wants to get their steps in? How many roadblocks have we done so far, me and you? Is it me or you that's going to be doing this one?
I feel like you've probably done more, so I feel like I would need to do it.
This one, I mean, okay, so we know River Dance, like it was a huge phenomenon back in like, what was it, the 90s?
Yeah, 90s.
It was. I just remember it being. What's his name? Robert Flatley.
Something Flatley? Gosh, what was his name? Something like that. But yeah, like has to be 90s because
Flatley, Riverdance. Let's see, what's his name? Robert? Is it Robert? Michael Flatley. In September 1995.
Yeah.
Flatley left Riverdance to pursue what would eventually become Lord of the Dance. Flatley had been in dispute with the Riverdance producer over his salary and royalty fees. Ooh, drama. So it's probably the 90s that he was super famous. Fun. Did you ever go see it?
No.
Me neither, actually.
I was like, you said 95? I was 12, so no.
I wish I had though, like so I could have been like, I've seen Michael Flatley in Riverdance.
But,
so you're gonna be doing this. How well do you think you have done?
I mean, I think okay. I don't know. It's like, so I used to take hip-hop. I used to take choreographed classes. So I mean, I have some history with that. Having said that, in the last couple of years, I have, for specific challenges, had to learn like TikTok dances.
And wait, should we put a clip of you doing the Wednesday dance?
Should not put a clip of me doing anything. And it's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot the older you get too, it's a lot harder to kind of get back into what you used to do.
Well, definitely memorizing choreography. Like I used to be able to just look at them do a whole minute long choreography and memorize it on the spot. I'm just
mm,
like, what the heck? How could I just? But I used to be able to do it.
yeah, it's harder the older you get, I feel like. But I mean, I don't think it's like so foreign to me that I wouldn't be able to do it. But and I feel like some of these people have no history with it, but also it's yeah, I'm do okay, maybe.
Well, thank goodness Corey's doing this one because I don't know if Rob would have been. This would have been challenging.
I think it, yeah, like I said, the older you are, I think the harder it would be for you. So if there's young people doing this, I feel like you have an advantage.
Now, how do you think that the race would have been able to help make it fair for Rob to be able to participate? Because, okay, so what they're looking at is posture, performance, turn up from the hips, on time with the music, and teamwork. So, yes, I know that he's going to be able to understand like the bass and be able to feel the rhythm in the bass, but like the speed of that is so fast, like, and not being able to actually hear the music. How do you think that the race would have been able to compensate and make it equitable?
We've seen like Dancing with the Stars have some deaf celebrities, and it's I don't know Rob's level of like if he can
Hear a
right if he can
little bit kind
feel
of thing.
it, if he can hear anything or feel anything like I don't know that obviously, but yeah, I just think you adapt to that kind of stuff. So he I yeah, I just feel like he would. I mean, it's visual as well, and like learning something. Yes, you don't have the assistance of like perhaps the music, but also you don't have the distraction of perhaps the music. And you can like you just learn it a different way. So I think only he can really answer that. I can't answer that, but yeah, I mean, it would have been doable. He would
Yeah,
just
definitely doable, but I just feel like it would have been just more challenging, especially since they posture like having her head up and smiling. He wouldn't be able to look down and see maybe the feet, how quickly the feet were moving or whatnot. Like, I mean, I don't know how he adapts. So you're right. Like,
yeah
he definitely might have like a tool to be able to adapt of like how to take beats and feelings in the body and be able to translate like that into steps. I just think that Corey was going to have an easier time with this one.
yeah yeah
And it
yeah.
doesn't seem like it was made to not necessarily help, but like to make it easier for, or like equitable for Rob to be able to do.
And not to skip ahead, but it's like I feel like they did think of these things, whereas like something like Big Brother didn't necessarily think of some of these things, because like so the next episode we see them in one of the scrambles, and there is someone there signing, for them, for Rob specifically in one of the challenges that he has to do. And I was like,
Actually, maybe that's something that somebody could be doing like a metronome for like the beats or something like that in front of him.
right. So I was like, there might be someone there assisting in a certain way that we don't know of, because they do. It does look like along the way that they have really put a lot of thought, and consideration into how he can run the race in a fair manner to everyone else. So
So yeah,
yeah,
they probably would have resolved that if he had done this particular roadblock, but they didn't, so we didn't get to see their
yeah.
resolution. So Anna May is teaching Corey, and she thinks she's super cute. Do you think there's a chance for them after the race?
Not being that far apart, but maybe if it was in the US or something.
Of course, Steve and Annalise stop for directions. But they do decide not to follow John and Greg anymore and get their own directions, which I think is a smart move. When Joel gets the roadblock, he wants to get his steps in. What do you think about Joel being the person to take on this task?
Right. It's kind of hard knowing if Joel or Garrett would have been better at this. I feel like, um,
They're both going to be equally as what they were.
right. Yeah, Joel, I again in the next episode, we see Joel kind of have a better kind of overview of everything, I think. So
Jonathan, some tea here. Taj
maybe
says apparently Corey and the instructor follow each other on Instagram.
Yeah, is anything gonna happen? I'm telling you, I definitely think it would have. I shipped them. They were very cute together. I mean, I was, um, but yeah. So I do think I actually think maybe Joel would have been. Yeah, Joel's probably the
The better
better
choice.
for this. Yeah, yeah. Just based on kind of
Because
what
he's
I
maybe because he's a little bit shorter, and if
his
sometimes
attention
tall people aren't as coordinated. Sometimes,
a little
yeah.
lanky. He just overall, I feel like has like a better, and I might be making this up, but I feel like overall he has a better attention to detail kind of a situation going on. So, um, but who knows? Who knows?
Who knows? Okay, so Steve and Annalie do manage to overtake John and Greg, and they get to River Dance before them. So they're in third place now. And then John gets there, and John is going to be doing the roadblock. He thinks that he could pass Steve and Joel. I agreed. I thought that he would be able to overtake those two guys for sure.
Yeah, their memory and their ability to adapt to a lot of situations is unparalleled. It's they're really good at that kind of stuff. So I said, ever since they kind of got it together, like halfway through the race or even a little bit earlier, they've just at most challenges have been
Very
quite
consistent.
good. Yeah, and very consistent. And it's like with any team, it just takes one thing for you not to like click in, for you not to get it and drag you behind. But overall, very strong. So yeah.
So John says that he understands musicality, and so this is going to make him be great at this roadblock. But he looks so stiff. I'm like, John, like he needs a little bit of looseness. He just like, he looks really stiff to me. But
That didn't surprise me. That didn't surprise me.
Corey tries to get it judged, and it's a lot faster than when they learned it. I'm sure that was intentional. And so like he was pretty surprised by how quick it was, but
Yeah,
she is calling out the steps, which
right.
is extremely helpful. So that's probably what they would do for Rob, is they would have called out the step, like someone would be signing the steps for him, maybe in time. Like I don't know how to do that, but like
Yeah,
something like that,
something like that. Yeah, yeah. It's the shock value of when everyone first gets there, and it's a lot faster. Was funny, so I appreciated that.
Very funny and very fast. So on the second attempt, though, Corey does pass it. He was pretty good. Like I was impressed by Corey.
Yeah,
Good job.
especially after like what has happened before with the balancing on the head and having to do a more of a dance physical routine before. So it's just the balancing made not so much, but the dancing fine. Okay, we're good. Yeah.
John gives it a try, and his first attempt was a little rough. And after his second attempt, though, the judge calls him down, and I'm like, the judge is wasting this man's time. Just give him the damn clue, like calling him down to do like some whole like song and dance. Literally,
Yeah, there's been a couple of them this season where again in the next episode the band guy, I was like, okay, attitude. But the like there's been a couple judges who like really love their moment in the sun, you know what I mean? So I felt the same thing. I was like, can you just tell them they got it or not? Like
you don't make this big commotion. Oh, and then poor Joel decides to go for an attempt, and yeah, it was really rough. Like it was not good, not good, not good. But Steve, I would have to say, didn't look as stiff or as awkward. Like he looked pretty good. It was very fast, of course, but he didn't look as, we'll say, awkward as I found Joel to look.
Right. And I was expecting Steve to struggle with it a lot more than he did overall. So.
And Steve tries it over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. After his ninth attempt, he did manage to get it. And I'm not going to lie, I cried a little bit. Was that laughing that you didn't?
No, I definitely didn't. I mean, great, and I'm glad they got it, but I wanted more. You know what I was missing this season is more complete and utter meltdowns of people in. Not saying that I wanted him to have one here, but just like it just reminded me, like, just like where someone completely loses it at a task because they can't get it.
Mhm.
I needed a little bit more of that this season, which we didn't fully get, but it was, again, still overall very enjoyable. But yeah, I think in situations like this is those moments where you can get people just losing it, and it didn't really happen. The closest we got the whole season was Anna Lee, usually during running, though.
And then after his 8th attempt, Joel gets it. And like these people didn't actually get it, but I think what the judge was basically going to say is just finish it facing front, like just do that and we'll pass you for the
Yeah,
most
it's
part.
subjective. I think it's very like, if you're kind of going through the motions and whatever they told you previously, if you had fixed, then they'll be like, okay, that's good enough. Because you're not going to get like their level, professional levels of doing it. So it's a pass to each individual is going to be different. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's just like listen to what he was telling you, and if you fix what he's telling you, they will pass you.
So Thomas loves the river dance here. They're so talented. And I think that it's exhausting. So Joel and Steve must have been tired because we did national dances in school. And so these were just like partner dances. So some were from different parts of the world. And I remember this one dance that we did, and it was like partner, it was like all like these like chasse and da 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 and turns and like, and it was so tiring. And this is when I'm in like my supreme level of fitness. Like I could dance for 10 minutes straight, full blast, and this was so tiring. So I can imagine that the river dance would be exhausting. Oh, like the jive looks like it'd be the most tiring one. Well, when we did jive, it actually was.
And I'm the type of person, the more that I do something, the likelihood that I'm not going to get it, because
Really?
because it's just I like physically deplete. And so, I just become incapable of doing so. I really, if I was running the race, I'd really need to nail it in the first few tries, or
Two
else,
tries.
I almost need like a full 10-minute stop break and then try it again. So yeah, good for them.
So, of course, there is another roadblock. Who's got the swing? And they're going to be hurling, basically completing a drill. So, they're going to have to pass it, catch it, balance it, and lob it into either between the goalposts or hit the net, something like that. Please be doing this one because I don't think I'd be doing this one.
Yeah, I thought this was kind of easy, but maybe it was just kind of the people who were doing it. Yeah, it didn't seem all that difficult overall, and I'm surprisingly better than you would think at like sport like activities. Surprisingly.
I mean, I did, as I've mentioned a gazillion times before, I was a dance major, so I didn't have to dance. So I didn't have to do gym or do any sort of sports activity in school. All my physical education was dance. So after grade 3, I did not take any gym. So,
Right. See, we had like something. So we talked about this before. Like I had City Chase. It's like the Amazing Race in Toronto, but like for charity and whatnot. And we had something. It was probably mid-20s, but we had something similar. And at the end of this, almost like this obstacle course of like physical activity, which I was doing because only one partner could do it. I had to like hit the very last thing. You had to between two pylons, and there was only enough space for this soccer ball, and it was so far away. It was so far away. And I did it on my first try. And I was like, and all these other teams were like resetting, and you have to do the whole thing over again. And it was taking forever. And I literally went through the whole thing and did it on my first try. But yeah, so I feel like I could have gotten this if we were doing it. I'm like, let me do it. I got it. I
please.
got this.
I mean, I'm coordinated and I can do things, but like I just don't have a background in many sports like things after the age of 8. So
Yeah.
it's been a while. a long while. So Corey is doing this one again, and he's able to get this before John and Greg even show up. He was super fast here, and they're going to be going to a pub now for the next part of this task. Apparently, this pub in particular remained open for 24 hours in case the king got thirsty. Interesting piece of information. So the info says recite James Joyce in Toner's Pub. How are you with reciting and remembering things?
I would have said a week ago I don't really know, but there was a challenge for an online game that I did recently where I decided to do a monologue, and surprisingly, I learned it a lot faster than I thought I would.
What was the
ha-
monologue?
it's called Wasted Time. So I mean, it's pretty dark, but I won't get into it. But you can look it up if you need to. But yeah. So it's something that with this challenge, I thought teams were going to really trip up, or there'd be someone who can't, remember those. But I think they all did pretty well
It was kind
overall.
of short too.
It was kind of short, but it was a little tricky.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, they kind of like got there, spent like probably all the same amount of time, and yeah, I just feel like for whatever reason, like I didn't know if things needed to be a little bit harder this leg, or I don't know, it just felt like everyone was kind of getting through things all the same.
Hmm. That wasn't super challenging for sure.
Hmm.
So back at the other roadblock, Greg gets the hurling on his second attempt. And then we see Joel and Garrett arriving at the second roadblock before Steve and Anna Lee. Garrett is able to get this hurling after his sixth attempt. So Rob and Corey recite their poems, and like you said, like they didn't have a problem with it. They get it on their first attempt. So they're going to go to St. Patrick's Cathedral, and that is the pit stop for the penultimate. Wait, what is it? How do you say the word? Penultimate?
Penultimate.
Penultimate leg of the race. Steve is pretty good at the hurling. He gets it on his second attempt. So, like, go Steve.
Yeah.
Pretty impressive. But then we get to the pit stop, and in first place is your team, your guys, Rob and Corey, and they win a trip to Fiji.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
I was like,
God.
first time, first place. I'm like, guys.
Hi, Phil. Phil hasn't watched yet, but I hope you're both doing great. Reality Realness. Woo! We're still talking about last week's episode. We're about to get into this week's right now, just so you know.
Yes.
So Greg messes up his first attempt with the reciting of James Joyce. It's just because it was like a little bit tricky with like the wording of it.
Yeah, it was one word he got wrong, like one, yeah.
Like the word meant the same thing. It just like didn't have the exact word. But yeah, so they were able to look at it and get it pretty quickly. Joel and Garrett are able to complete their poem before Steve and Anna Lee arrived. And so that was one thing that I didn't necessarily like, is that there was no real place for any movement. Like if you didn't have any problems
Exactly.
with the driving, like you couldn't overtake somebody if
Yeah.
if your driving was fine.
And although this is a good season, I feel like there's been a lot of that. I've talked about that. It's been too tight for me in the sense of like, everyone's checking in within a couple minutes of each other. And I think that is a result of none of the tasks being challenging enough to really hold a team or a couple teams back if they're struggling with it. And at least a team should be struggling with it. So I get it's more exciting when you're seeing a team and you're like, who's going to get there first?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you can mix it up a little bit more. So yeah, for me, this leg of the race did not have challenges that they were very same. They were all like get there, complete it in like 20 or 25 minutes. Like the variance wasn't enough. So
wait, what John was awesome. Oh yeah, John was awesome on his second take. Yeah, like he was really good. Like I was like impressed by his poise and how he was able to said it with such confidence, and like I thought he did a good job with memorizing that. But we do learn though that he has a good memory, so that makes sense that he was able to remember it and perform it so well, so quickly. Well, seemingly quickly, anyways. I would have liked to see a timer on how long it took them to memorize it.
yeah, oh, me too. Me with time. I want to see like a ticking clock for like all the teams always. Like I just love I find it so fascinating. But yeah, no, John and Greg have that. They're young, they're athletic, and they are good with mental and memory tasks too. It's like it's almost unfair. I mean, look how often they've come in first. You know what I mean? So it's
they only had like one bad finishing, right? Like which was like
yeah.
sixth place or something.
Yeah, they have a lot going for them.
So second place is John and Greg over at the pit stop. Third is Joel and Garrett. And we knew that it was going to be Steve and Annalie that were going to be coming in last. And I did feel as though when her dad was saying the poem and she was kind of looking up at him, I do think she felt really proud of her dad. And it kind of got me a little bit teary-eyed, even though I'm tearing up right now too, thinking about it.
There was a bit of a shift in them when they thought that they were losing that other leg.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, Annalie still comes out in her, but overall, I think there was a little bit more appreciation. Sorry, Rylan wants to say hello because he's
Hi,
at my
Ryland.
leg, and I'm moving him over here on the windowsill still.
Ryland's birthday's coming soon.
Next month, yeah.
Next month. What are we doing? Are we gonna have a party?
Gosh, I don't know about that one. He's gonna be 7. But yeah, so I do feel like you're right. I feel like she was able to appreciate some of these moments the last leg or two a little bit more than she had been.
Agreed. Glenda's liking your dog.
He's the love of my life, let me tell you.
Very cute. So yes, Annalie and Steve do come in 4th place here, meaning that they're eliminated from the race, and there are no women in the final.
I was very surprised. I feel like their edit that they were getting was like 3rd place in final leg, not 4th, you know? So yeah, really, really surprised with that one. But I mean, like we mentioned at the beginning, all my draft teams make it to the end. So I was very, you know how terrible I do at drafts. I never do well in drafts. So
can't say that anymore.
Maybe we need to do more like tarot and animal card readings for me to like assess my draft.
Maybe. Well, did we do this? We were doing it as we were drafting already, though. No, weren't we?
I can't remember.
I'm gonna pull up
what we did first.
Annalie and Steve. What did we have to say about them? Hold on. Let's see what we had to say.
What did we say?
Is that them? Yeah.
Steve and Anna. Annalie. She goes by Annalie or Anna, but yeah. They just fell victim to me being on my list as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 place on my list.
They were 9 for me too.
Just because I had other people that I liked and just
also not a great card. So I got the Knight of Swords in reverse. Upright, we call this card the Kanye West card. If you remember from Big Brother Canada, when I pulled this card for Kyle, he had that wild head of household reign. So this to me says Hot Mess Express.
That's her.
Yeah, maybe running in different directions and not be able to get on the same page. A little bit frantic energy. It seems as though they're going to be a little bit messy. It is a night, so nights mean they'll get through a few legs. It's not like an early card. So maybe they'll stumble their way into the halfway point-ish. But it definitely doesn't say winner. It definitely says messy and all over the place. And yeah, entertaining. It says entertaining. Nailed it. Nailed it.
Yeah, I also feel like he will slow them down. I don't know. But okay, what do I pull? I pull oh my god, Lioness again.
Oh.
Same card, which we're keeping because we don't stack the deck here. And I shuffled Protection. So I feel like, you know what? I feel like he's going to be concerned with protecting her, and she's going to be concerned with protecting him, and just like, you know, caretaking for each other rather than like pushing through and getting things done on the race.
Oh, it's more him than her, but
so I feel like I think that's their hurdle. Whereas we also got this for the sisters, and to me it was also you know, something that was not a plus, a positive. It's just where someone's relying on someone else, and I think you kind of brought that up a little bit too. I do feel like that is the same kind of energy and potentially the downfall that this team will have. Is that
actually kind of,
you know, he just wants to do this for his daughter and she wants her father to like push through. It's okay, Dad. It's okay. Just do what you can. that kind of vibe.
Mhm.
So I was
I
making her too
think
nice.
they're
gonna get caught up in that
yeah,
rather than
wrong
and the
wrong
emotions of
person.
that rather than, focusing on what needs to get done to get through. So,
Yeah, they might not have, like, that winning drive. It's kind of like, you can do it drive, but, like, and support, but not necessarily, like, super competitive. Well, she is, and he wasn't. It doesn't okay. I think that's pretty decently accurate.
yeah, there's some like drilling outside. I don't know if you hear that, but
Oh, I hear it now.
there was yeah, I'm turning on and off my mic, but there it was surprising. I was like, I do think that there was definitely some accuracy there. And so yeah, really interesting to look back and see what we picked for them.
As when we get to the end of the next episode, we'll look at the other three teams. All right, so a finale, a sunset Seattle. Wait, finale, a sunset Seattle scramble. Yeah, see, Linda's like, I like boom, boom. I might put that up on the social medias because I'm definitely getting better because the more that I've been doing, the more accurate that they're getting. So I definitely like the pulling in the animal cards. So we're gonna do them again. Maybe we'll do it for the traders. Ooh. Did we? Maybe we did already. Did we? We talked about the cast, didn't we?
No, we didn't. I didn't. I didn't go through the cast. I mean, we might have done like a general like, here's who we think's on it or whatever, but we haven't gone through the cast. No.
Oh, right. All the teams are starting, but there was no times, and I was like, okay, so are they just all starting at the same time, like, and just leaving?
Right? Like it's like I went back to make sure I wasn't missing anything, but I'm like, oh, why won't they tell us how close or far apart they are? And especially because, I mean, we shortly learned that it's like a scramble. But yeah, I just feel like they were like, we're not gonna ever tell you the times for this leg. You're just going to be guessing. So
So annoying. I'm like, just tell me the damn times. Like, you did it for the entire season. Why are you leaving it out here? But they're going to be flying to Seattle, which is the most caffeinated city in the country. Is that's where Starbucks was invented or created or
oh really?
conceptualized, wasn't it?
Oh, I have no idea.
Let me look. I think Starbucks started in.
Starbucks originating city. In what city did Starbucks start in?
I think it was Seattle.
Yeah, you're right. It's Pike Place Market in Seattle in 1971.
But oh, it's that long. I feel like it only got really popular in like the 2000s.
Yeah, like the last 20 years for sure.
Because like I don't remember in high school there being. Well, maybe they didn't have them in Canada.
Yeah, no, I didn't know of Starbucks honestly until I was, gosh, I would even say the last like 15 years.
Let me see. Starbucks to Canada.
And when I first started hearing about it, it was definitely like in America. So their origins there first.
Oh wow! Our first international store opened in Vancouver, British Columbia, in 1987. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't know of it though.
I mean, I didn't live there then, so.
Yeah.
Maybe let me see to Toronto. When did Starbucks come to Toronto? 96, opening 5 locations simultaneously, including one on the Danforth. Okay. I just didn't know that they existed. So they're going to be getting to their car, and there's a Space Needle in their cars, and that's their clue. So they're just basically driving to the Space Needle. Everybody knows that the Space Needle is like, the Seattle landmark. Does anybody in the chat know Toronto's landmark similar to the Space Needle?
And it was funny too, without giving that away. It was funny because, we did hear a team, maybe it was John and Greg or something. It was a team where they're like, oh, there's the needle. And I think as like a viewer, you would just be like, yeah, how are you not seeing it? But we live with something very similar in our city, and you can absolutely lose it behind buildings and other things. So yeah, it's funny because I feel like,
and ours is taller.
Yeah, and so I feel like to everyone else, like watching it would have been like, how are you not seeing like where the, where it is? But you can definitely lose it under the right buildings and stuff like that. So
Chat, no ideas of what our freestanding tallest building in the world? I don't know if it still is, but at one point it was.
No, there's I think it's like third or fourth. There's like definitely one in Dubai.
Now, but
There's several. Yeah, it was at one point for sure. It was at one point the tallest building.
well, I'll let you guys mull over what it's called. So apparently Corey went to Seattle very often, and so he's pretty familiar with the surroundings. The second team leaving is John and Greg, and they asked to use the taxi's phone to look up about the car park when they're going to be landing in Seattle. Do you think that that's fair? Close. Is this a typo?
Can Tower. It's not what it's called, but close. Tower is definitely.
You have all the correct letters.
That they're using specifically the taxi's phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, ish. Yeah, I feel like you. I mean, I don't know. It's like it's because it kind of falls under like, are they going to let you? They don't have to. They're not part of production. So it's like asking someone on the street if you
Is it though? That's basically what I'm saying. Is like,
yeah,
is it,
I mean, but like if you have like a good taxi driver and they know where they're going, or if they don't know where they're going, it's the same kind of thing. Like if you have a good taxi driver that lets you use their phone, great. If they don't, then I'm okay with it.
yes, Thomas. CN Tower is correct. Can Tower is incorrect. Yes, it was a typo. Okay, and
I mean,
it means Canadian National Tower.
right. So it's yeah, very close.
That's our claim to fame. In the six.
When was the last time you were there?
Inside of it.
Mm. And it's like right down there.
If I went to my window, I can see it for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, when I was younger, in probably high school, they used to do laser tag in the bottom, like the bottom floor of the CN Tower. So we used to go and play laser tag there often. So immediately that I could think of was when I was in high school.
Okay. Mine's like 2007. I did like the CN Tower walk
Edge
where you
walk?
walk up the stairs. No, not the edge walk. Just the walk up the stairs. Edge walk. I'm terrified of heights. Just the walk up the stairs, which is terrifying because they're like those graded, like, open.
I feel like I've done that, but like I don't think I have. Like I might just like creating a memory that doesn't exist.
It took me 45 minutes.
That's terrible.
They time us. Yeah. It was
my legs would be burning. Tiring.
Yeah, it's funny how it's like right there, and we don't like none of us have been to it in the last 15 years.
Well, what are we going to be doing there?
The Edge Walk.
They do have a revolving restaurant.
Yeah, I've never been.
I've gone up there and like because like it's like a glass floor, and so you can see down. The elevator, okay, like it zips you up pretty quickly if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I came down that one after I did the walk, but yeah, no, I don't go up.
So Glenda has been to the CN Tower more soon. Yes.
How was it, Glenda? We live here, but how was it?
It must be pretty cool. It's pretty high. And like I do like how they change the colors with if there's like sporting events or if there's like a holiday, like they change the colors around the CN Tower.
Yes, they've done fireworks off of them, and it's right, it's right by the water ish too. So it's like you get to see over the lake and whatnot. So,
are we gonna should we make an outing? Do they have any escape rooms at the CN Tower?
They should if they haven't. We should do like a film, come to the CN Tower with us.
Yeah, I'm in. Yeah. I haven't been in a while. I'd go.
Yeah, and we'll just post it on YouTube.
It's perfect. We learned that John also lived in Seattle for a month. Everybody just lives in Seattle. Ooh, Glenda loved it. She loves heights. I definitely would go if I was never been to Toronto before.
Yeah, I mean that would make good TV because I'm terrified of heights. So if you want to see me like sweat and like have panic attacks and like cuss everyone out, then definitely.
That's what we're here for. So Joel and Garrett are considering themselves to be the underdogs this leg, and they feel like this is a good, like, it's a good position for them to be running the final leg as the underdogs, is because like they just need to get just a little bit of an edge, and they can easily win because it's such a tight race. So in Seattle, so yeah, all the teams have a Space Needle on their dashboard, and this is their clue. They don't get an actual clue; they just get the Space Needle. And so it didn't show anything about, John and Greg, them using their taxi drivers, to see about the car park. Like, we thought that maybe that would come into play with them being able to like get to their car faster, but it seems like they all were running at the same time.
Yeah.
Like, it actually seemed like they're like, okay, and run. Like, it's like it was another take. It was very, very like they started at running at the exact same time.
I know. I was kind of like, how is that even possible? Yeah, you're right. It felt kind of a little set up.
Definitely. So route info, Corey and Rob are first, Greg and John are second, Joel and Garrett are third. Here they're going to be walking around the rim of the Space Needle. What I thought was interesting to keep them closer together in time is that Corey went first, and then Greg, and then Joel, and then the second partner went second. And so it didn't allow the first team that got there too much of a lead.
Yeah, I didn't like that. Like, it's just, again, it's going with the whole, let's keep it really tight. And maybe if the season wasn't like that and it was like that for this one, then so be it. Because really, I feel like what they try to do is have two teams at that last challenge where the memory of like where you've been in the race, and that really determines it, which, we'll get there. But yeah, I just feel like, Rob and Corey deserve to have a little bit more of a head start. So
yeah, I agree, to be honest. So they're going to be looking for a man wearing a yellow and red tie, and they're going to the Chihuly Glass House. Yeah, so I do wish that they didn't keep the race so tight. Like, I know I agree with you. The reasoning is that they want to have the tight race at the end. They don't want, because apparently, did you watch the season with Will and James?
Yeah.
So apparently on their season, they were an hour and a half ahead of, oh yeah, we covered it. Was it Hung and Chi? Right. They were an hour and a half ahead of them. And so I think they were preventing that much of a separation between the first place and second place team.
Yeah. And I totally get it for this last leg. I get it. It's just, I was over it happening so much throughout the series that with it here, I was just like, oh, come on. Especially when like your favorite team's in front. So yeah, but I do understand it. And I think they will always try to be doing that, so for the last leg. So
route info, get ready for a Seattle Scrambled inspired by Seattle's art scene. So there's going to be 3 different tasks that they're going to have to do. One is grunge, which is where they're going to become a roadie for the band. Grab, where they're going to be swinging from a trapeze, and glass. They're going to be blowing glass into a shape. Now, we still haven't seen a scramble yet on this season, but we did see it on last season. It opened up season 34. What did you think about having a scramble in the final leg of this season of The Amazing Race?
It's interesting. I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it, because I mean, obviously they're not going to do like only one team can do that challenge at a time. That would have been more interesting, but you're not obviously going to have that for the last leg. I do think that, we do see that Corey and Rob decide to go to the furthest one, assuming that maybe wherever they have to go afterwards is more downtown or central to like the city base, which I think could be smart. However, I think that it allows them to not push themselves. I want to see other teams. I want that pressure. I want to be at the other challenges with other teams there to see how well I'm doing or how well I'm not doing, and be like, we need to pick this up. Otherwise, you can be a little
There's no urgency.
Leisurely. Yeah. And so I think like that's a mistake. Whereas like, I'm like, oh, geographically, that might be a good idea. But also, if you're not right and it's something that's out of town or even farther in that direction, then you're putting yourself behind everyone else.
Or so, what if the next task is closer to the further
That's
one.
what I'm saying. Yeah. So it's like you're taking a big risk with that, and you're not allowing yourself that urgency. So I would rather, if I think that I'm on par with these other teams, and I can
Stick close to them so you
just
know where you are
hundred
based.
percent. Yeah, 100%. So I think it was a mistake. But anyway,
Well,
we're not
because
there.
like, and then also, with the trapeze one, Rob wasn't very good at it, but like he wasn't able to also learn from the other teams around them. Like when you have like other teams that are doing something simultaneously, you could see like, oh, they just got to check and that wasn't going to work. So let's not waste a check and let's make sure we blow the glass a little bit bigger. But like if you're there by yourself,
Yeah,
you are doing all the trial and error to get it right without being able to learn from anybody else
yeah.
around you. So yes, the pressure is important and then also the learning curve.
And we saw with the band and the amps challenge, we saw when they were there together, there was teams who were able to learn from, oh yeah, power, yeah, right, thanks, and other teams' mistakes and whatnot. So that's what I would have been doing. I think that we're very observant people, and we would have been able to really take advantage of being around other teams and learning from their mistakes. So it's interesting. It's an interesting thing, and I think Rob and Corey made a mistake in that, and it allows for them to make that mistake in that. But I like the idea of a scramble. I think I personally want to see it earlier in the season, though.
Yeah, I didn't love the scramble for me for this last leg because it's not been the way that they've been racing this whole season. So I guess they wanted to shake it up and like keep them on their toes. Okay, but I just think that it allowed people to make mistakes. Like Corey and Rob, I think I agree with you, made a mistake by going out, being by themselves, not having the pressure, potentially driving further, who knows, staying away from the other teams to not know where they actually are. I think that was a mistake, but that wasn't the way that they were running before because they were able to see people around them all the time. So they're like, oh, we need to pick it up here, or oh, let's not do that task right now because they were just able to make
Yeah.
better decisions. And so
And we've seen Rob and Corey be like, "Oh, we thought we had more of a lead," and they don't. And then they're like, "Let's pick this. Let's run. Let's pick this up." So
don't worry, Thomas. It's all good. It wasn't a test. It wasn't a game show. You're good. You can
you get
cheat.
50 points, Thomas.
Well,
You get 50
you
points.
can't cheat really, but it's fine. It's okay. So there's not really much to think. The thing is with the scramble, it's just kind of like how I wrote everything down as it was happening, but it was just like bouncing back and forth to the different tasks. And I just didn't really even like how to cover it. So do you want to just talk about each of the tasks?
Yeah, yeah.
Because I don't know. Well, okay, so Joel and Garrett are going to be going to the glass first, and so is Greg and John. So they both have the same idea, going to the one that's closest and just like banging that out. Well, they didn't actually bang it out because they found it quite difficult to do the glass. Have you ever done any glass blowing?
I've watched that show on Netflix, but I've never done it myself.
It's
And
actually really cool, the show.
I do think that for the other teams, they like this, like kind of just knowing what everything else is. I'm like, oh, this is what I thought going into it. I was like, this is probably where Greg and John can falter, and this is like, because like we saw Rob and Corey doing the trapeze. Like I'm like, Greg and John are going to do this like first, second try. You know what I mean? So I was like, this is where they need them to falter in like this one or the band one or whatever. But I just knew that, they're musically inclined, whatever. So they might do that one really quick. Yeah. And so I thought it was very interesting. And I was like, when we saw Joel and Garrett do kind of well overall, because I think it's such a big learning curve with this particular glass blowing challenge, that I was like, are Joel and Garrett winning? That was my initial thoughts. I was like, is this what's going to happen? Like,
Well, okay, so that was my initial thoughts when I was like, oh my God, they're getting it before Greg and John, because Greg and John kept on trying and it was like a little bit too small, or then
breaking it.
they breaking it, or like, they just like kept on having all these fumbles. And then even when Joel and Garrett leave before them, I thought that they're going to just be like right behind them, and they still had like 2, maybe even 3 more times that they had to try it before they were able to leave. And so I was like, oh my God, is Joel and Garrett winning? Because like they definitely said the line, the underdog, we're the underdogs.
Yeah, they
And
kept
then,
saying
though, right after that, though, Corey says the title. He's like, "Oh, we're here for the Seattle, whatever the alliteration that he was released, the Sunset to Seattle Scramble." And so he was excited about that alliteration. So I was like, "Wait, well, maybe this is a good move for them to go out to the other place first because maybe they did make a correct calculation." So I was fighting back and forth there, but John and Greg were out of the mix for me at this point.
Yeah, well, I mean, I saw like I don't know if they're cutting in between, but we saw like Rob take like 8 tries at the trapeze
Yeah.
challenge. So when they were able to get this, I was just like, I think I was not expecting this. I thought Joel and Garrett were going to be like 4th, and I'm like, I think Joel and Garrett are going to win this.
I definitely was thinking that because I was like, I didn't think of them the entire season being a contender at all.
At all. And I know I've, criticized when they're like stop and like eat the mustard and the hot dogs, where like, like they've almost been out a few times, and there's a lack of urgency sometimes, but
And they're losing their stuff, forgetting things and having to go
forgetting
back for them
things. Yeah,
twice.
so I was like, is that team gonna win this whole race? Like, what? Anyway, I was like, okay, wow, okay, let's see what happens.
So Corey gets to the trapeze, like he does it on his first try. It's a very simple task. What they had to do is like kind of just jump down on this trapeze thing, wrap their legs onto the bar, and then release, and then get the other person to catch them. Like we've seen this particular trick, we'll say, in many shows. I feel it's not abnormal. But I think I need to try it before I go on to a show like this.
I think if like the only hiccup that other teams had if they didn't get it on their first, but the second one was that because there was so much struggle with getting their legs up, they kind of like stopped the momentum of like grabbing that other guy's hands. But overall, yeah, Rob struggled the most out of everyone. Everyone else got it on like, the first several tries.
How would you have done?
Oh, I think I would have done okay. Yeah, I think I would have done pretty good. I'm not. I don't think I would have just. I'm not. I'm like 160 pounds, so I'm not like very heavy. So I don't feel like I would have disrupted the swing of things, and I can get my legs up there and just grab it. And it's not that high, and there's a net, so I would have been okay with. I know Tom is saying he doesn't like heights, but yeah, I would have been okay with that amount of height as well. That's okay for me.
But the trapeze did look fun. I would have liked to do that one. I don't think I've ever done trapeze, but I used to do gymnastics when I was younger, so it reminds me of just like the regular uneven bars where you had to do stuff like that.
It's not that high. And then like you ever do rock climbing, and I'm like always like so eager, and I'm like I go and I'm like and it's not until I get up like at the top and I'm like, well, this is kind of high. This is kind of go down now. But yeah, so the trapeze would have been fine.
Maybe I need to go rock climbing. I've never done it before.
Oh, it's fun. They're all over.
Yeah, there's one on Bloor that's kind of close to me. Base camp.
Oh, that used to be that. Is that the one that used to be the
Lee's Palace?
I was gonna say adult movie.
Oh, maybe. I think it's beside Lee's Palace, but maybe you know better than me. I don't know about any.
I just remember when they were building it and what it used to be before. They were saying I worked right over there. So, yeah.
John and Greg are just having trouble with the orb, so making it too small, chipping it as we mentioned. So yeah, and Joel and Garrett, they're able to leave and complete it first. We go back to the trapeze, and after the 8th attempt, like you said, Rob does get the trapeze. Now they're going to go to grunge, which is where they're going to be roadies, and they're going to be putting together some amps and stuff like that. John, and Greg do finally get the blast going after the 6th attempt. Have you ever worked for a roadie or been in a battle of the bands or done any amp work?
So actually, I would think I would do really well with this because my father has always been, where I'm a skincare enthusiast, my father's always been like an audio theater set. He used to actually, for like wealthy families, used to go and set up their home theaters for them. On top of like his day job, he would do that. So I grew up being around all of that, and I've I've never not had a surround system that has been like set up in my place or anything like that. That's like a standard for me. Like when I go over someone's house and they just have, no offense, anyone out there, but when they have TV sound only, I'm just like, oh, you don't even just have a center channel and a left and right. Like, oh my goodness. I just
Jonathan,
can't.
I already have a TV.
Yeah, like I can't though. I mean, so many people do, but I grew up differently than that. So for me, it's familiar territory, surprisingly enough. So yeah, I think I would have done decently with this one.
I mean, I've never done like I never really cared about surround sound personally, but my mom always didn't want to be like, you don't need a man to set up your VCR. So I've always known how to set up like VCRs and like, make things work. So I think I'd be fine too.
Yeah, like what's the word? It's very logical, and if you understand the basics of it, and these were not difficult setups at
No,
all.
it's like
Like
basically plug this
these
in.
were yeah. So it was more of the trickery of stuff. But if you know what they look like and you kind of know how it functions, you wouldn't have tripped up on where certain things are. So we would listen. I promise you, if we did this, we would have ran through it really quick. I don't know about the glass blowing.
Mm,
I think the trapeze we would have been great
we'd be
at.
fine.
I think we would have blasted through this one, and we yeah we could have won the race.
Yes, if we're in this final, these three tasks, the glass blowing, like you said, I don't know how we would have done.
Yeah.
I've never done it before. It looked difficult. But the other two tasks didn't look hard at all.
Yeah.
No. Agreed. Everybody's basically going to be at grunge together, it seems, because that is what it seems the direction that the boys are going in, because they're going to do the ones that are close to the glass blowing, so they're going to grunge. Same with Joel and Garrett, and then after the trapeze, they're going to be going to grunge. So I was like, ooh, all three teams might be there at the same time. That's kind of fun.
I kind of wish that they had them more in a like whatever it was, more in a triangle, so there wasn't because this was you knew if a team was going to the farthest one, a team was going to the closest one, there's definitely going to be at some point that because you would never start at the middle one and then go this way and then go that way. So I just feel like I wish that they were more in a triangle somewhere. So it
Like
was
when they
more
started was like the middle, the nucleus, and like they're all kind of equal distances at least.
yeah. So it was more of a who knows kind of a situation. But I mean, I did like seeing the teams all at the same place, more or less.
So Rob and Corey do show up to grunge. Finally, John and Greg show up. The beards are already at the roadies. What is this considered? I guess the roadies scramble.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that I was saying that like I thought that Greg and John were going to excel at the trapeze because like when you learn who you're rooting for, I think as they were doing so badly at the glass blowing, I really started rooting for John and Greg. And I don't know why that ended up happening because like for a lot of the race I was rooting for
Because they're your family.
Oh, right,
They're
my
your family
brothers-in-law.
members. Yeah.
I guess also like I've met them.
Yeah.
Or well, I've met Greg, so like I feel like I not that I know him, but like I want to support his journey. But like I definitely was like, oh my god, okay, so yeah, they're gonna be able to catch up on the trapeze, and like they're still gonna be in there. They're still in this, and so it was really, really frustrating though watching this because there's one tricky part where inside, I think it's an amp, the top of the amp flips over and becomes something to plug things in, or like what would we call the motherboard? I don't know.
Yeah, and it was just the amp, right? And it's literally just where you control. And I mean, if you know that that's kind of where it has to be, you wouldn't be looking everywhere else. I think there were too stuck on looking at the diagram being like, oh, there's an additional component here, when I'm like, no, it needs to be built in. So it's like it was, I mean, I loved it. This was probably the best part of the episode for me, was the fact that they were all like so just like, where is this thing?
So you don't think the best part was when the judge speaks into the mic and Smokey Brights performs?
No, when he said, what was it? When he said he said something kind of rude. He was like, I forget what it was, but he was like, "You're wrong again," or blah blah, like this again. You know what I mean? I was like, "Okay, calm down, calm down." I'm like, I'm sure you've told all your friends about the fact that you're going to be on this amazing race, but you can calm down. I was like, he was really kind of rude that like the first time he told someone to check again.
Thomas thought that the bands were pretty good, even though he doesn't necessarily like that kind of music. What do you think about the three bands?
I was just more concerned with the gameplay. I was like, wait, do they have like, if do you have to wait for the full song to be over? What if one
It
song's
seems like they
longer
had
than
to
the other?
wait a long time.
I was like, or do they have like definitive, like you play a minute of your song
I
and
think
then
it's
we
the
give
minute
it
of
to
the
them?
song
Like,
or
yeah,
whatever.
it seemed at the end that like it was a predetermined amount of like, you have to wait a minute, and after 60 seconds, we'll give you the clue, the piece of the clue. So, yeah.
Because these bands need to be showcased, right?
Right. Seattle. I mean, if you're gonna be in the city, it's like I do appreciate that the Amazing Race, shows off kind of like a little bit of what it, and if that's the Seattle grunge scene and it's an authentic representation, then sure, show us a little bit of it.
I
I
don't
don't
know if
know.
it makes you want to go to Seattle to go venture into the grunge scene, but
I'm not into that scene, but it's fine. It's like, show us a little bit of it. I didn't think it took away from, anything really. It was just a little bit, so it's fine.
so I guess I mean you probably just are eating this up, but I'm rooting for my family here,
Mhm.
and they can't find the amp top, and you see John lift it up, and like don't even see the cords that are inside of it.
Yeah.
B, they don't even look in the like how they were looking for this thing was ridiculous. They just kept like running back to the front and looking in the box and like lifting it up and like, well, why would it lift out if you couldn't put something in it or something? Like things
Yeah.
don't separate usually for no reason.
Yeah, it's just that fundamental like understanding of how it works that they weren't thinking of, and I mean the chords were like clearly hard to see. It was dim lighting because I think Corey even overlooked them, and like
Yeah.
Rob was like, "Oh, it's no wait, it is down there." But like, how are you just not feeling for everything? You know what I mean? So,
Well, if there was
um,
a dark box like with amp stuff, I would think that there is something in the box
yeah,
necessary for the amp.
yeah. And
I
now
would just think so.
here's
Because like
I know
even if
where
I would store things in there, right? If I
right.
was like a roadie, like you'd store stuff and stuff that has no box.
Oh yeah, it needs to be all compact and whatnot. Now, just to throw this in there, even though we're in the middle of it right now, how do you feel overall at the three Steve and Annalie would have done if they made it to the final three?
Annalie would have been fine on the trapeze. I think that Steve would have trouble kind of I don't know if he'd take more or less time than 6 tries, but he would be equal to Rob, I would think. I think she might be a little bit frantic on the grunge part, and so I don't know if they would find the amp, like the tricky amp and the chords,
Yeah, Steve
if there
has
were not other people there.
his eyes aren't the best, but I was wondering because I'm like, there's not a lot
But
of
maybe
race.
he's played in a band before. We don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm like, there's not a lot of like foot, racing or like, that kind of stuff. They're kind of driving everywhere. So I was like, I think they could have
But do you
pulled
think
it
that they would have
out.
been smart enough to have been taking notes of like the order of things for the next task? Because if she's not a
I
fan, I don't know.
yeah, I don't know. I feel like they kind of probably tell them like you need to because they wouldn't want like a team like in the beginning of the race. They probably explain all the rules, explain what different things mean, and it's not like they're like, oh, a scramble, and they're like, what the hell's a scramble? They are like, oh yeah, a scramble. And so I feel like they would have told them like you need to because they don't want a team showing up there being like, we don't know, like, look, we can't do this. We just don't know. We're out of it. But yeah, so I don't know. I thought they could have done half decently, but I just knew that the brothers were going to do very well overall, and I was surprised that they had the stumble at the glass blowing,
Oh my
and
god, the
now
stumble
and,
here. This is
and the
a
stumble with
bad
this.
stumble.
But I'm like, we know, I'm like the
Trapeze.
trapeze, they're gonna kill it, right? So who knows? I'm at this point, I'm still I'm still Garrett and Joel are winning in this
Well,
point.
well, definitely. I was like, I'm gonna like throttle John when he goes to Corey and Rob, who had found the amp part, but didn't realize that they didn't have the chords. And then John
Yeah,
says to them,
yeah,
"Did you find the chords?" And just alerts them like, "Oh, there's chords that I need to find.
yeah.
I might not have thought of that." And I was
I'm
like,
like, do you think they're gonna help? This is very Corey telling Stephen and Ali that they're on a bus, not a subway. Like it's like really, it's like that moment. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, like, are you like you're not getting information out of them by telling them things? Like,
so Rob and Corey, they end up nailing it. They get it done. And we listened to the Black Tones. They were the most like I like the band the most, I think. Greg opens it also and looks and does not see it. I'm like, are you kidding me? Like these brothers are like giving me a stress attack here. But they finally do end up figuring it out. They do find the chords, and we get to hear La Fonda getting their sound check. Whoop whoop. So yeah, Joel and Garrett are not great at grab. Okay, grab. Yeah, sorry, it's a trapeze, and they try 3 times. But then when John and Greg come, they had completed it. They're like, "Oh, it's scary! It's so scary!" I like trying to pretend and spook them a little bit. But they were finishing when John and Greg show up, and then John does it, gets it on in seemingly his first try. Greg tries his first try, not as successful, but gets it on seemingly his second try. And then they find out that they've been getting pieces of the plane for each stop, and all the 3 pieces come together and show them an address.
now, do we
Go ahead.
see if the address is like maybe I missed this, but do we see if it's like where it's closest to? Like I was trying to figure out if like it paid off that it was closest to like the third location or the
Yeah,
first, or if that was yeah.
they never made that clear.
I need to watch some exit interviews to see if they address it and like were you ended up being closer to your final, yeah, I don't know.
Anybody in the chat? Do we know the answer to this? All right, so Rob and Corey are now over at the glass, and they definitely had a lot of trouble in the beginning of the glass, and was like, it felt as though, I mean, with the scramble, you can't fully tell, but it's energetically, it felt like they were out of the running at
Yes.
the glass for how the timing, the lack of urgency, the amount of time that I don't know, it just felt like
I
they
mean,
weren't competing
they
here.
just looked at each other and were like, like what do we do? And I was like, oh, and I don't know if it's the editing like as well, but it did feel at that point I was like, Rob and Corey are third. Like I was like in my head, I'm like, oh damn, okay. And then I mean I was still up in the air. I was still up in the air with is Joel or Garrett winning, or is this going to be Greg and John? I don't know.
At this point, I was thinking it was going to be Joel and Garrett. Or it was going to be it was going to
They
be
were ahead when they got to that. It
yeah,
wasn't
it was
until
close.
yeah, it wasn't until that final moment, which we haven't talked about yet, where they get to that the
Well,
last
they're getting there right now. So they get to the final challenge, and so this is going to be at Kenmore Airfield. And so basically, they have all these kayaks, and the kayaks are going to be roadblocks and detours, and they're to put them on these kayaks in order from left to right. Is there any reason why there are kayaks? Do they explain that?
No, I mean, because they're by the water, maybe Seattle's known for something. But I didn't like this because I felt like the trapeze was
Physical?
physical. And now this is also like this should reward though the brain. You know what I mean? And this was some could argue it's a mix of both, where it's like you have to be physical and brain. But I'm like, generally speaking, if you will have a guy team at the end, no matter what,
They're
and
going to
I
be the
felt this
most impressive.
challenge, if there was like a girl team, I felt this challenge, even if they got there at the exact same time, would have benefited the like a guy team over a girl team. And if they knew exactly the same information that they knew, and I did not like that. I'm like, you already
Well,
had a
and like I
physical
don't
element.
think that Steve and Annalee even if they got there quickly and they knew it, they would be able to beat any of the teams.
Right. Like let's talk about for a quick second or the Jocelyn and Victor. If they were still in it, you know what I mean? Like how would they have done at this if they were up against Greg
Greg
and
and
John?
John.
Yeah, I don't love that for the last challenge. Like if you're trying to keep everything tight and make it, then make the last thing a little bit more
Equitable.
fair. You know what I mean? Where anyone could do it. It's not a physical thing. It's a
Well, and
mental.
like maybe the kayaks weren't that heavy. I don't know, but like, does
I
it
mean,
have to be a kayak? Couldn't it have been like
they're cumbersome.
a toy kayak? You
Right.
know?
I grew up with kayaks and canoes and stuff like that, and it's not the heaviest thing, but you need two people, and they're not easy. And so and then the sheer amount of them that they needed to do as well. I just was like, this is too much of a physical challenge to me. Supporting a guy win. Not that there was any girls left in the gym anyway, but
Mhm.
I just mean, yeah.
Hi, Miss T Joys. Oh, saying that the airport was at a seaport station. Okay, but like they could have just used like toy kayaks, right? That everybody can carry.
I mean, you could have a big screen and just do like a digital one, like the kayaks that you need to place and whatever, or like you said, toy ones, or yeah.
So I agree that it's unfortunate that it was a physical task because I mean we just watched Big Brother and it was just really annoying that all the tasks were super physical. But now we're watching reindeer games and they're not all physical, so it's like, ugh.
Well, yeah, well, exactly. I was just about to say that with reindeer games, you're like, why can't you do this for the regular season? Like this
Oh my
is
god, America and Corey were talking about the last episode with Rob and Perrin, and they're just like, wait, so you had these competitions like ready to go,
yeah,
and you couldn't implement any of them in Big Brother 25?
yeah. When you have Felicia, you have Suri, like you know what I mean? Yeah, I'm just like this
And then you're
balancing
making
challenge.
Cody now do these like balancing challenges where, anyways,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
pissed, and I
wild.
understand.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, Thomas is saying like, yeah, women might have been disadvantaged with the kayaks. Absolutely. A, they're smaller. They're not going to have like they're not going to be able to carry one on their own. So it's annoying. It's annoying that they think of a lot of things and it goes through a lot of hands and a lot of people look at all the different tasks to build a season. Like this oversight is something that I don't think should have happened.
When you structure it to have and keep it tight and structure it to have that last challenge, multiple teams are at the same time or really close, and you don't keep that fair and rewarding what the challenge is about, which is having taken notes, having that memory of it, it that just seems, it negates it to me almost. And I'm just like, I mean, here we had all guy teams, so it really doesn't come into play, but that's not the point. The point was that it could have been different and it wouldn't have been fair. It wouldn't have been a fair challenge. So we did see which we'll talk about. We saw Joel and Garrett having a bit of an oversight, and
Well,
that cost
and
them.
Joel actually, I mean, I don't think that Garrett's going to blame him, but if it were me, I would blame him because
Yeah,
Joel said, like, Garrett had it in the right spot. And Joel's like, no, that's the one I did. It was the first challenge. And they moved bird's eye view to the first challenge when it was supposed to be something on top or whatever. And he was so sure about it for the entire time, even when they're getting checks. They checked again. And Garrett was like, are you sure it's not this one? Like, yeah, I'm sure. Like it's so many opportunities that they could have changed that one around just to give it a try instead of moving around these kayaks in like different orders to see if they're correct. Yeah, Joel and Garrett definitely could have won that. But I guess it wasn't in Joel's cards to buy his wife a gym or open a gym with his wife.
yeah, she's a personal trainer, right?
Yep. So I felt pretty bad just because of the fact that like I really thought that they were going to win and Joel kind of stopped them from winning. And Greg, well, you know what though? Also, Greg Garrett has got to take some ownership. Is that he should have just forced through and just swapped it, being like, okay, whatever, let's just try it since we don't know what's wrong.
Exactly.
Instead of taking his word for it, I probably would have done that. All right, so John and Greg are like super fast at this. Apparently John has a really good memory. And so Greg was just kind of letting John do everything. And wouldn't you thought that like maybe Greg would start be the muscle at least and like be moving the kayaks, and John would kind of be telling him where to put them. But Greg was just at the beginning letting John do everything. And I was like, this could be the downfall, is that like they're not maximizing their strength here. Even though they have the order correct, they're not maximizing their muscle at
Yeah,
all.
I would have been a little upset with if I was part of the one team. But Greg and John, I mean, like they this is what they're good at. It's the mix of like the physical and mental, and having that right mix. And so with the kayaks, I was like, that's when it all switched for me. And I'm like, I mean, that's when it switched for the game.
Thomas is a good point here. So could they have had something else but change it to kayaks when they saw only all guy teams remain?
I don't think that they do that. I don't think they almost like have to, because that could come into like your cheating and all that, which, if you haven't seen the movie The Quiz Show, go watch it, and how illegal it is to cheat, or you have to kind of have everything structured ahead of time. And even if you're like, if something's not working, have a structured backup to that already. Otherwise, you can get into the whole cheating scandal, and it could completely end everything, and you can be sued. So yeah.
So likely not.
Likely it was
unless it was put in to play, like there's a different task for every kind of like scenario. So if it was like all guy girl teams, like maybe there'd be this alter, or maybe they'd probably keep it the same. But if it was all women, or if it was one woman, maybe they had alternatives that like they could put into the contract or whatever it is. Maybe, but likely not. So while Joel and Garrett are basically not realizing their mistake, Greg and John actually do get it correct. It seems like it was on their first try, and they are out of there going to the Clyde's mansion for the finish line, and they're freaking out. They're driving, and was this when like they're driving and Greg's like, "Are we going the right way?" And John's like, I most probably, I think so.
Like, I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
I was like, this is the one time that you should be sure. Like, oh my God. I was like, are they going to lose the race? Because like, this is the one time that they really, really mess up on their directions. I was like,
yeah, no, I was like, it just all makes sense at this point, because I was like, oh, the the fact that they were like not doing well, and they really emphasized that early on, and now they're here. I'm like, they've got it.
So after Joel and Garrett are able to get it, it seems like maybe they decide to make that switch finally, and then they get it correct. I hopefully Joel apologized profusely. And they get to, so we're not sure who. It seems like they're really close. It's neck and neck between Greg and John and Joel and Garrett, and they're both in the same area, and they're looking, and they're at a campground, and like I'm just like, oh my God, like is it actually a foot race? Like oh my gosh. Well, John and Greg do it, and they do. They run through, and they are so excited. What's his name? Phil says that they're the most excited winners that he's ever seen.
Yeah. They do. One of them does announce when Joel and Garrett run through that they're like, yeah, we just came in like 20 seconds ago. I'm like, I don't think it was 20 seconds.
It's 120, he said.
Oh, 120. Because I was like, I don't think it was 100. Yeah. Who describes 2 minutes like that? But it's 120 seconds ago. I thought he said 20 seconds ago. And I was like, no, he's talked to him for at least 20 seconds. But I just am surprised they didn't make it seem even closer, because that was like the usual edit for me. But maybe they just couldn't. But yeah, I highly suspected that it was your future family members winning the amazing race. Now, having said that, and we obviously see, Rob and Corey come in third, unfortunately, but they dominated this season.
Yeah, they won 4 and then 5 if you conclude the final leg, and second in many.
Yeah, so it's not a surprise at all, which normally I'd be disappointed with something like that, but they are very deserving and likable. And Yeah, so I don't know why I'm not more disappointed that there wasn't more of a challenge for them, because it was really like theirs to lose,
I think
essentially.
it's because they made mistakes.
Right.
And
Right.
so it showed that it wasn't an easy ride for them, that everybody made some mistakes. And so, like, they actually were able to, it wasn't just super easy for them just to breeze through. And I think that's why you can accept it.
Hmm.
Because, yeah, if they were just like, no problems with the last leg, you'd be like, meh, boring.
Right. Yeah, they did mess up in
A
2 of
lot.
3. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's quickly just take a look at what we said about Rob and Corey.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they
Hold on. Where's our cards?
of being able to do that, adjusting.
Where's our cards?
Where's the card?
Did we not pull them?
I
No.
think that they have Rob's 48, Corey's 25,
I'm at this point. I have them a bit lower.
but they like
So chameleon, to see a chameleon in your dream represents your ability to adapt to any situation. You are versatile and well-rounded. Alternatively, you feel you are being overlooked. I can see that being a possibility, like being overlooked potentially because of, being a deaf contestant. They haven't had a deaf contestant in over 10 years. I'm just worried about his physical aptitude, but that could also correlate to being overlooked. So I think it's a decent card. And then, this is good too. This is one of the better cards that I've pulled today because it's upright. It's the Empress. So Empress is the number 3 in the major arcana. So life's major events, major changes. This to me bodes doing quite well. It's upright. It could be a winning card because it's abundance. It could also be final 3. Sometimes if I see this card, sometimes it's not for them, but like pregnancy, right? So it's something happening, so a birthing of something. So
Corey just announced he's pregnant.
It's a really decent card.
the
And
Riverdance
this
lady.
could say final 3. This could say winning card. This could say winning a lot of money, maybe on different legs, but it definitely talks about abundance and prosperity. So nailed it.
Yeah, I think
We nailed it again. Okay, let's find
chameleon, like they were adaptable. They were able to, and you said final 3, like they were able to adapt and overcome things.
and they
so.
won one other leg, so they won a prize. Where are these Beard brothers? Okay, here we are, Beard friends.
Oof, I don't know what we said about them because I don't think either of us were necessarily feeling them. But let's see.
I mean, they were pretty low on my list. I think they were number 10 on my list.
they're number 10 on my list. Yeah. Yeah. Again,
See how well they do. I don't know what that means. Maybe it's like another.
probably 5 or 6.
If we don't pull a card for them,
as far as
one they lose.
No, we did.
I just wanted to cover all my bases.
Oh, it's a good card though. Okay, that makes sense. See how well they do. But I don't feel winner from them. And here, I got the Queen of Wands in reverse. If it was upright, I'd be like, they do quite well, but it's in reverse. I just feel as though maybe a woman team is going to take them out. I don't know. Queen.
Yeah, I mean, I won't be rooting for them. I'm sorry, guys, but
Jonathan.
I just wanted to cover all my bases.
I hear.
I didn't know
hear
them
it.
at this point.
So yeah, Queen of Wands reverse. It just means that they're going to. To me, it means that they're going to be taken out by a queen. Like they're not going.
Maybe John and Greg are the queen, and they're taking them out.
Maybe it's like another roadblock situation, and they.
I want to know what their animal card was.
Or maybe the U-turn is like, or certain negative behaviors.
I think we pulled the animal.
Those teams
ones.
will work together or not.
Yeah. Do we need?
It's 2. It's Beard and it's the military background because there's a lot of respect for that in general, but just especially with US. And so, I feel like they hit kind of both of those.
Connected to your intuitive.
I thought I saw an owl there. Or something.
Me too.
Yeah, and I mean they're older as far as contestants are concerned.
Come on, where's that owl? Where's that owl? I guess we just did not care to talk to them about
Oh,
those.
there.
Like a bunch of cards here. I picked the owl for them.
Owl.
Maybe they'll surprise me, and I'm interested in these double up cards. If those teams will work together or not.
Yeah, or if they're going, I'll make a little chart or something so we can see who got what.
I didn't.
But
wisdom, you know, is the word.
Or if they're like at the same, they get to the map at the same time or something.
But I mean, yeah, it's.
You said owl, correct?
Owl, yeah, I can see them bringing some like wisdom with just their age and whatnot. My dog.
I'll just read owl again. So wisdom, insight, magic, expanded awareness, and virtue. Connected to your intuitive senses and psychic power. It's the appearance of an owl may be telling you to let go of past or certain negative behaviors. So I'm wondering if that's something to look at here with the owl. I'm interested to see how well they do. Okay, so
I feel like now, like I'm seeing it, they were never frantic. You know what I mean? And that element of wisdom, I mean, listen, they're forgetful, they forgot things, they whatever. But and in the last, like we definitely did see them kind of, you know, stay true to course and kind of know what they were doing and never really get too frantic about anything. And I do think that comes with age. But yeah, overall, we didn't have super high hopes for them. But again, we said some stuff like surprise us and things like that. And they did.
I think when I was trying to line this up, I think they got the owl. They get along. They traveled so many places together. I just think in general, the song lines.
Okay.
But anyway. Yeah. I'm just gonna go, and there's also a beautiful orca stone sphere that I have over there. But orca is like, to me, and it's a picture of, there's a girl there, as you can see, and they're kind of like, I don't know, they're a little, to me, orcas are like majestic, and they're like these spirits in, you know, animal form and whatnot. So I feel that they will have a really good connection with people, and there's a lot of power to them. Orcas are just like this powerful creatures, and so I think they'll do well. I think they are definitely like top 5-6 material, and they'll also be well received with other racers, and they'll power through competitions. And yeah, I don't know if they'll be in the top. I mean, now I'm just going with my gut here. I feel like something can take them out, but it would be near the end.
Other one wants to speak up and say something.
But that I feel like that's probably in their connections that they're able to build.
Don't remember the order of all the flowers on the lapels or whatever it is, and they just get stumped up, and they can't take home the win. So it shows longevity in the game.
The Emperor is the biggest money card in the deck.
It feels to me like one brother is going to be that's going to stuff it up. Just from the orca description in the Dream Book, and they're not going to win because of the biggest money card is in reverse.
They still don't give me winner energy. I'm telling you this right now, even knowing that they won.
You know what? I'm wondering if that card, I'm just misreading it because it was a scramble in the final round. Like it wasn't like they weren't winning in the final round for a lot of it. They actually just crossed the finish line first. So maybe just from how it was structured, the final.
Yeah, they don't give me winner energy, but like the card that I pulled with the orca, and then I said like the powerful, like powering through these, and they did. I still feel like if I went back and read it again, I'd say yeah, top 5-6. But like I don't know that they're gonna win though. It's yeah, but I mean they killed it and they did power through. So that's interesting to see I mean your cards, and then for me, this is my first time pulling animal cards, so yeah.
I'll definitely take a lot of information from these card pulls, these top 4, into future card pulls. Okay, so lastly, before we close it out, Thomas did check. The grunge task was 13.5 miles from the kayaks. Glass Boy was 13.7, and then the trapeze was 15.6. So it was smart of them to do the furthest task first, but not as smart because they didn't have anybody with them to give them.
Right. And I mean, it's all very similar, but we don't live there, so I know that sometimes for me 3.5 kilometers, or let's say miles or whatever, going east is a heck of a lot easier than 3.5 kilometers going west through the city. That doubles my time. So geographically, it might be similar, and or the trapeze was farther, but I would love to hear from someone who lives there and knows what those drives are like. So, or I guess just we'll watch exit interviews and see what they say. But yeah, that's interesting to know. Thank you, Thomas, for looking that up.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody here in the chat, for being here on our amazing race coverage. Thanks, Jonathan, for being with me here to talk about our favorite show. Do you have anything going on you want to share with the people before we say, I guess, goodbye until the new year?
Yeah, no, everyone have happy holidays with whatever they may or may not celebrate. And hopefully everyone gets a little bit of a break and a refresher. And we have a lot of great shows coming up in January, February, March of, we have more Amazing Race, we have Traders, we have Survivor, like all of that goodness. So starting again real soon. So
it's going to be 3 months from now before we know it. So excited. Oh, but please subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Like this video. Let us know, what do you think about our card pulls? What do you think about the winner? Tell us what you think about the show, the Scramble, everything. We want to hear all your thoughts. If you hear any tea from any of the exit interviews, I'll do my best to watch as many of them as I can, but I can never see all of them. So if you find any interesting tidbits that we discussed, please leave them in the comment box below. Thank you, and happy holidays, everybody. We'll see you next year.